Hey everyone, welcome to That's Good Denver. I'm your host Chris Romeo, and we're going to break down the 2024-25 Denver Broncos season as the Broncos won and clinched the playoffs for me in person, and I went to the Broncos Chiefs game as the Broncos won 38-0 for me in person. The Broncos clinched the playoffs for me in person. This is my theme song of what I went to Denver. It's a good. I'm gonna drop the bomb or not. The Broncos win a carousel of QB since Peyton Manning. They got their 3 Super Bowls in the Mile High. Forever young. I want Bo Nix to be forever young. Do you really want Denver to live forever? Mile High forever. The Rocky Mountains forever. Forever young. I want the Broncos 3 Super Bowls to be forever young. Do you really want Denver to live forever? Forever young. Yes, sir. The Broncos win and clinch the playoffs. For me in person, the Broncos went 9 years without making the playoffs ever since the Broncos won Super Bowl 50 with Peyton Manning and Von Miller. They went 9 years without making the playoffs. A carousel of QBs. Now we're gonna break it down finally. And yes, the Broncos' 3 Super Bowls are forever young, and the Broncos clinching the playoffs. Forever young is my theme song when I watch the Broncos win and clinch the playoffs against the Chiefs. So, anyways, let's get into the questions. So the Broncos clinched the playoffs for the first time since winning Super Bowl 50. From a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a season was this for Denver?
From a scale of 1 to 10, I would put it at about an 8. I think it was about as good a season as they could have asked for. Yeah, honestly, their expectations going into the year, at least for me and from a lot of other NFL analysts, was nowhere near the playoffs. Everyone was just kind of looking forward to seeing if Bo Nix could play in the league and if some of their young talent would turn out to be as good as some people thought it possibly could be. And they completely exceeded expectations. Making the playoffs was a huge accomplishment, and Bo Nix absolutely balled out. Him and Sean Payton look like they have something special brewing, and yeah, if they would have won a playoff game, I'd put it a 9 or a 10, but just making the playoffs to me gets it at an 8.
Right. As far as this season for the Broncos, a scale 1 to 10, I mean, I say you could put it at a 9. I was saying to everyone all season, if the Broncos just made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback and Bo Nix, that it would be our Super Bowl. Like, the Broncos just making the playoffs would be our Super Bowl since we haven't made it in so long and stuff. With the rookie quarterback coming in, nobody had expectations. Everyone was saying the Broncos might have the number 1 draft pick, and they exceeded expectations. Our defense was a top 5 defense in the league this year. Patrick Surtain playing really well. We even lost a lot of defenders like Justin Simmons and and then when our defense was winning this game, as the season got on, Bo Nix got more and more comfortable with the offense. I think having Sean Payton as head coach really helped. The finish 10-7 and getting the playoffs, and the Broncos basically controlled their own destiny the last 4 weeks of the season after they won that Colts game to finish 9-5. They could have clinched the playoffs by beating the Chargers or Bengals. They lost both those games, but the Broncos at the end of the day got it done against the Chiefs backups, winning 38-0. The game I went to, I would say this is a solid 9 as far as this season. They just got to keep getting better. Bo Nix had 29 touchdown passes, 13 interceptions, which is statistically the best rookie season by a QB in Broncos history. Do you think Bo Nix will keep getting better?
I do, yeah. I mean, his first year in the league for a rookie season, that's one of the better rookie seasons we've seen a quarterback have. The interesting thing to me will be next year will be to see if he goes into any bit of a sophomore slump. We kind of saw C.J. Stroud on the Texans this year didn't quite have the season he did as a rookie. A large part of that wasn't his fault, but he still wasn't as sharp as he was his rookie season. So a lot of times guys that come out and light up the league right away will hit a rough patch. So I'm interested to see if that happens to Bo Nix at all next year, if he just keeps taking his game to another level. But I think his future is very bright, and he showed everything you want in a franchise quarterback this year. I'm looking forward to seeing him continue to get better, and he's also on my fantasy quarterback in my dynasty league. So I'm big Bo Nix fan.
Yes, the sophomore slump is a very good point. A lot of QBs hit that. C.J. Stroud definitely had a sophomore slump this past year. Statistically, he still had a really good season, but not quite as good as his rookie season. Will Bo Nix keep getting better? I mean, you already got the best receiver, one of the best receivers in the league in Cortland Sutton. Marvin Mims, I think, is our fastest receiver and our best deep ball receiver. So I think him and Bo Nix will develop some more chemistry. And the Broncos got a tight end in free agency now in Evan Ingram, so I think that definitely helps. And, that'll help him in the red zone score more touchdowns. So I think Bo Nix will definitely get better the more weapons he has. I mean, I think having Sean Payton as the head coach has really helped him. I think, I mean, going from throwing 29 touchdowns and only 13 interceptions your rookie year, best in Denver history. I mean, since that was Bo Nix had that type of rookie season, Bo Nix almost won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So, I mean, I think sky is the limit as far as Bo Nix. I think he can keep getting better for sure. How bright is the Broncos' future? Bright, not so bright, or very bright?
I think it's very bright. I think what Bo Nix showed this year is enough. Like, when you have a franchise quarterback that's young and as good as Bo Nix looks to be, your future is automatically bright. So I think, and especially the head coach like Sean Payton too, the Broncos are going to be a team consistently in the playoff picture, if not Super Bowl picture, for years to come. I really do think that. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be a Broncos fan right now.
Well, how bright is the Broncos' future? I mean, I'm in a Broncos group chat, and if I asked this in a Broncos group chat, they'd be like, what kind of question is this? Because they all think the Broncos have a very bright future. I do think the Broncos have a very bright future. I mean, you got a rookie quarterback, of course, in Bo Nix. You got a top 5 defense in the NFL who's always been good. You got one of the best coaches in the NFL, Sean Payton. They just need a few more pieces to, really be considered as a legit contender. I think, their future is very, very bright as they stay healthy. And, Bo Nix, he's a franchise QB. They're very, very bright future. Next question is Patrick Surtain the best corner in the NFL?
I would say so. I mean, I don't have stats in front of me right now comparing any cornerbacks or anything, but I think if I was starting a team today and had to pick a cornerback to start my team with, it'd be Patrick Surtain. I think he passes the eye test every time I watch the Broncos play. He's making plays all over the field. And yeah, I would take Patrick Surtain over anybody right now as a cornerback.
I think whether he's the best corner, I think it's very close. I think Patrick Surtain's definitely in the top 3. He's up there with Minkah Fitzpatrick, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey. So Patrick Surtain might even be better than those guys. Patrick Surtain has locked down a lot of good receivers in this league. I remember a few years back when the Denver Broncos were playing the Bengals. Pat Surtain held Jamar Chase to one catch for 3 yards. Patrick Surtain also had a really good game against Devontae Adams when he was in Las Vegas one year. And, and even when the Broncos defense has gotten cooked in the past by good offense like the Bengals, I mean, a lot of that's not even Patrick Surtain's fault. It's the other side of the ball. It's, the safety, the position, the run stopping and stuff. So Patrick Surtain definitely could be one of the best corners in the NFL, and even rocking his jersey. Will Bo Nix continue to lead the Broncos to the playoffs?
That's a good question. Yes, I think so. Unfortunately for the Broncos, though, they're in the AFC West, which also has Patrick Mahomes. So the Chiefs are always going to be there, and it's always going to be tough to win that division with the Chiefs there. And you also have Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert with the Chargers there too. So they're in a very, very tough division. If they're in a division like the AFC South, like my Colts, I would say absolutely they have the division unlocked for years to come. But I think so. They have a young enough team and enough good players. I think they will make the playoffs, at least be in the picture for many years to come. But it is tough with the Chiefs and Chargers in that division. And then the Raiders, too. I think the Raiders will be a little better this year. Geno Smith isn't great, but he's a lot better compared to what they've had the last couple years at quarterback. Right. So that division is very tough, but I think the Broncos are talented enough that they will still make the playoffs.
Right. Well, not only the AFC West, you got to also think about, like, the entire AFC, too. I mean, yes, you're in the AFC with the Chiefs, who just got done with a Super Bowl dynasty with Patrick Mahomes. You got the Chargers, who are very loaded on both sides of the football, and the Raiders might be a little bit better. But you also got to think about teams you're competing to get in the playoffs with. Like, you got to think about the Bengals. You got to think about the Chargers, maybe the Steelers, the Ravens, and the list could go on for a while. But I mean, I think the Broncos are always going to be in the playoff picture in the next several years. I do think Bo Nix will continue to get Denver to the playoffs. As far as winning the division, it's going to be really tough. But I mean, I don't see why. If the Broncos can make the playoffs this year with a rookie QB, I don't see why they can't make it in the next coming years as Bo Nix gets better. Next question. Will Bo Nix lead the Broncos to their fourth Super Bowl win? Will there be more?
That's hard to say right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Nix won a Super Bowl in his career at some point. The way the league is right now, I would guess it will take a few years. I don't think it'll be any time in the next 2 or 3 seasons, but I would say within the next 10 years, realistically, the Broncos have a very good shot at winning a Super Bowl. But this league changes really fast. But we're very well positioned right now that I think Bo Nix will definitely has a good chance of leading the Broncos to a Super Bowl. As far as more than one goes, it's way too early to tell that. But I think he can win one.
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible that Bo Nix can lead the Broncos to a Super Bowl. A lot of it depends on. I mean, the Broncos have already had a really good free agency. It also depends on the draft. They need a running back to, jumpstart that run game. I realistically do think Bo Nix will lead the Broncos to at least one Super Bowl. Because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Even though they're still going to the Super Bowl, it seems like every year. You already saw this past year. Mahomes is starting to slow down a little bit. It really just depends. I think a lot of it depends when the Chiefs slow down, because when the Chiefs slow down, it finally opens up the door for these other teams like the Bills with Josh Allen, with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens. So like they're both of those teams that are due for a Super Bowl run very, very soon. I think, and even the Bengals and the Chargers maybe someday and stuff. So I think Bo Nix will lead Broncos to a Super Bowl eventually. More than that, I mean, maybe if Bo Nix wins the Super Bowl with the Broncos in the next 5 years, we could talk about more than that. But right now, let's just keep the goal at getting better and heading the right direction to get us one Super Bowl in the next 5 years, and we can talk about more later. Broncos have signed Evan Ingram, Dre Greenlaw, Talona Husfanga in free agency. Are the Broncos one of the winners of free agency?
Yeah, I would say definitely so. I think those guys are huge additions on both sides of the ball. Like you mentioned before, the Broncos really haven't had a legit tight end since they won the Super Bowl with, what did you say, Owen Daniels?
Owen Daniels.
And the last one I can think of, too, is Julius Thomas. Too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a tight end, a really good tight end is one of the best things a young quarterback can have. He's a guy that you can always check the ball down to and you get in trouble. It's like what Mahomes has with Kelsey or Brady had with Gronk. Like, every great quarterback seems to have a go-to tight end. And so Evan Ingram is a huge get for Bo Nix next year. I think will help a lot. And those are two really good defensive players as well.
Yeah. I would say the Broncos, yes, they probably are the winners of free agency. Adding Dre Greenlaw and Talona Husfanga, I mean, the Broncos already had a top 5 defense. Now they added another linebacker and a safety. I think Denver's defense is completely set. Like, I would not be surprised if the Broncos don't really go for defense in the draft. And now the Broncos got a tight end. And, having a tight end, even though we didn't get Cooper Kupp, now that kind of opens up the door. Okay, like, now that the Broncos got a tight end, now we can focus on getting a wide receiver. We can focus on getting a running back. We can focus on other sides of the football to where in the draft. So I think the Broncos are one of the winners of free agency. I think the Commanders are the top winners. I'd put the Broncos at like 2 or 3 as far as free agency. But yeah, it was a really good free agency. Definitely something you want to have. Now we just got to see what happens in the draft. What will the Broncos' record be in 2025?
Pull up their record too. What did they go this year? Were they 10-7?
10-7.
I think that's pretty realistic for what next year could be as well.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me if they won, 11 or 12 games too.
There we go.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they won, a game or two more than that. But I think 10 is about right where I expect them to be for next year as well. Especially with the additions they've made. A lot of it will depend on who they have to play, which we're going to pull up here in a minute, and their own health and the health of other teams as well. But I think 10-11 wins is pretty realistic for this team next year.
Right. I was looking at the schedule. I don't think there's any reason why Denver shouldn't go 11-6, honestly, especially if we have a good draft, and stay healthy going into next year. So I have their schedule. Hold on. So we got the Broncos schedule pulled up. Obviously got the AFC West, but looking at their schedule, I mean, they got a really easy home schedule, but a very difficult away schedule. Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Jaguars, and Titans should be easy dubs. Cowboys honestly should be a dub. Giants should be a dub. The only home games for the Broncos, games for the Broncos where they would have an excuse at losing at home are the Bengals at home and the Packers at home, 2 playoff teams. Then their away schedule gets very tough. At the Texans, at the Colts.
Which will be in Germany.
In Germany now. At the Chiefs, at the Raiders, at the Chargers, at the Jets, at the Eagles, at the Commanders. So their road schedule is a gauntlet, which means they should definitely target some offense in the draft. I mean, looking at the schedule, I think they go 8-1 at home, and on the road, there's there's really if the Broncos lost all their tough road games like the Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles, Commanders, and the Broncos went 8-1 at home, there's no reason the Broncos shouldn't finish 11-6. I don't think so. I mean, then if you get enough receivers and pull off an upset in a few games, who knows? Maybe you go 12-5. Maybe you win the division. If the Chiefs have a down year or something. So I mean, I think a lot of it you got to do better within your division. I mean, the only thing that was down on the Broncos past couple years, their division record, they only finished 2-4, 3-3, so they got to finish a little bit better in that category. But yeah, I mean, definitely another favorable schedule for Denver, and no reason they shouldn't finish 11-6, maybe even better. Broncos once again had a top 5 defense in the NFL. After free agency, is Denver's defense completely set?
I would say so. I think the way their defense played last year, and then you add a couple more guys to it who are legit proven stars in the NFL. Like, yeah, their defense is set. They really don't need much more. They should focus more on the offensive side of the ball. Keep giving Nick some playmakers. But yeah, their defense should be really good this year.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. There's not really much more you need to do on defense. Focus more on offense. I mean, you got all the pieces you need pretty much. You got the safety from the 49ers, Husfunga. You got Dre Greenlaw. You got, Nick Benito. You got Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan. So you got a lot of good playmakers on defense. Really just the offense, Could use one more receiver with Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. You need a running back. You lost Javonte Williams, and the Broncos just never had a good run game. Even when the Broncos had Peyton Manning at quarterback, our run game just wasn't ever really that good, and our run game has sucked for years. So running back helps. You got a tight end. So the Broncos defense set, and we'll just see. The last question is, who do the Broncos need to draft? Who do the Broncos need to draft to get back in the playoffs and keep heading in the right direction?
Well, it's kind of like you already talked about. I think the Broncos need some nice young playmakers, and good news for the Broncos is that this year's running back class it looks like one of the best running back classes we've seen in a long time. There's some real talent. You look at guys like Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Judkins. There's a lot of Henderson, the other Ohio State running back. There is so much running back talent this year. So it's the perfect year for the Broncos to draft a running back early on. And there's also some decent wide receivers in this draft as well. It'd be nice to see the Broncos take a running back and a wide receiver pretty early on in the draft, and that should help Bo Nix a lot, and they should be looking really good on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like you said, I don't think the Broncos shouldn't even really, unless they have an injury or something, Broncos should really be focusing on offense. The Broncos should be making their main focus on offense this year. I think in the first round you draft a running back for sure. You don't really, you have Audric Estime from Notre Dame, you got Janeel McLaughlin, but can you get a legit running back? Like you said, draft running back the running back class is pretty big, and that works out well for Denver. So draft a running back in the first round. You got a tight end, so then draft a wide receiver round 2. Then you can kind of beef up your defense or beef off your wide receiver room a little bit more. Add another wide receiver, add maybe another tight end, add maybe another backup safety or something like that. But yeah, what the Broncos need to do, I think the Broncos roster is good enough to make the playoffs next season with how good their defense is and Bo Nix. But, to keep heading in the right direction for the Broncos, to win a playoff game, for the Broncos to make a run in the playoffs, get back to the Super Bowl, you need a running back to jumpstart that run game, need a wide receiver, and, if you do that, the Broncos are definitely heading in the right direction. But, another question, since we did a video about the Colts and Broncos, another question I have in mind, do you think Peyton Manning is do you think Peyton Manning had a better career with the Colts or the Broncos?
Yeah, this has been a popular debate I've seen going on for a long time. But I think Peyton, I mean, he spent 14 years in Indy and what, 4 in Denver?
4 in Denver.
4 in Denver. Yep. You can make the argument Peyton's best season statistically was one with the Broncos when he put up, 49 touchdown passes.
Oh, yeah.
But the league has really changed since he went to the Broncos. He originally broke the record for most touchdown passes in a season with the Colts, and then he re-broke it with the Broncos.
Broke the most passing yards.
Yeah. But Manning should be remembered as more of a Colt. I mean, 14 years to 4, that's like saying, will LeBron be remembered more as like a member of the Cavs or the Heat? Like, LeBron is going to be remembered as a member of the Cavs just because of, that was his original team, and he wanted a championship for them first. But I think Manning's impact, it was just as great with the Broncos in the 4 years as it was with 14 with the Colts. But Manning has a statue outside of Lucas Oil. He is the reason Lucas Oil Stadium got built. That stadium never gets built if he wasn't drafted. In fact, before Manning got drafted, there were rumors the Colts were going to leave Indy again because they just weren't bringing in any kind of money. Manning literally saved the franchise, the Indianapolis Colts, or they probably wouldn't be in Indy today. So his impact to me is greater with the Colts than it was the Broncos. 1 championship with both teams, 2 Super Bowl appearances. So to me, he'll be remembered as more of a Colt, but he probably has a different theory on that.
Right. I mean, I think, yes, he did spend a lot more time at the Colts and had 4 years in Denver. It could go either way. I mean, you got a Super Bowl with both teams. I think, and this is why I think Peyton Manning's statistically the best of all time. His 2013 season with the Broncos, he had the most passing yards in a single season, most passing touchdowns in a single season. Then the next season, Peyton Manning broke the all-time passing yards, all-time passing yards and all-time passing touchdowns in NFL history. So, I think Peyton Manning was statistically better with the Broncos just because some of the records he broke. But at the same time, it's just kind of hard to see whether Peyton Manning was overall better with the Colts or Broncos because I think Peyton Manning should have won more Super Bowls with the Colts. He kept running it into Tom Brady all those years in the playoffs. But then at the same time, Peyton Manning and Demaryius Thomas and that defense beat Tom Brady twice in Denver in the AFC Championship. So, he accomplished a lot of great stuff with both teams for sure. After his neck injury with the Colts, he won comeback player of the year with a couple MVPs. So, I would even go as far as Peyton Manning was a better quarterback for the Broncos than John Elway was. Even though John Elway had more Super Bowls, all the records Peyton Manning broke, and the fact that, the Broncos went 2 Super Bowls appearances, 1 Super Bowl win in just 4 years in Denver. It took John Elway 16 years to finally win back-to-back Super Bowls with the Broncos. So, it's a good debate. And another thing I was going to say is, the Peyton Manning and the Broncos having the best offense ever in 2013. Most passing touchdowns by Peyton Manning, most passing yards. 606 points they put up. Best offense ever. If you take the 2013 Broncos offense, then 2 years later, the Broncos had the best defense in the NFL with Von Miller, Aqib Talib, DeMarcus Ware, Chris Harris. So if you take the 2013 Broncos offense with the 2015 Broncos defense, that team goes down in history. Not only did they win the Super Bowl, but they probably catch the Steelers and Patriots in Super Bowls if they play together long enough. So, I definitely miss those days when Peyton Manning was with the Broncos as quarterback. Definitely a legit contender, but who knows? Maybe Bo Nix can do the same thing if the refs stop helping the Chiefs. But that's it, everybody. We have concluded this YouTube video. I'm about to play the song "Forever Young" again. Yeah, the Broncos win and clinch the playoffs for me in person. I'll probably upload some shorts about it eventually, but what a season it was for the Broncos. The fact that I went to Denver to celebrate me graduating college, and the Broncos beat the Chiefs 38-0 for me in person. The Broncos clinched the playoffs for me in person. It was a lifetime memory. I don't know if it's as good as when I went and watched the Nuggets in the playoffs the year the Nuggets won the championship, but I don't know. I haven't gotten over the fact that I watched the Broncos win and clinch the playoffs for me in person, especially since it was the first time in 9 years, but I couldn't get the song up. But that's it, everybody. This is Blake Egley. I'm Chris Romeo. That's good, Denver. The Broncos are forever young.